In this video, let's dive deep into the threat modeling concept. As always, I will try to simplify it, make it a fun learning experience for you with a lot of examples so it is easy for you to understand the concept. Please subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so and watch this video fully as I have given some questions as a bonus so you can check your understanding as well. Threat modeling is a security process where the potential threat is identified, categorized, and also analyzed. Identifying a threat is the first step towards defining defenses. When can we do threat modeling? Threat modeling can be done either proactively or reactively. Proactive. Imagine you are planning to build a house, and if your land is close to a small ground where children or young adults play cricket, for example, the glass in your window is under threat. Think about that. Your design should take care of that. Reactive. Imagine if you are moving to a house that is fully furnished, but you realize the compound wall is a bit shorter than the recommended height. Then your property is still under threat because someone can jump in. There could be a theft. You will have to increase height of the wall. Hey, these are not InfoSec examples, but I hope you are getting the point. In the glass door example, you have an opportunity to proactively do something even before you building the house. However, in the later example, you have to test, you have to see and fix if you think there is a threat. When we do it proactively, we can save a lot of time, money and energy. It is obvious that we have to do the threat modeling before building the software. Various aspects about the design, security and technology are thought about in this stage itself. The threats that are identified in this stage are handled by efficient coding practice and following guidelines, etc. This makes you to identify the threats and resolve them proactively. Reactive. If we have to use an existing software application, it may have some vulnerability anyways. So, threat modeling done in those scenarios are reactive. Think about how can we test and bring this out. We can do pen test, ethical hacking, fuzz testing, etc. Since we are doing these testing to find out whether there is any threat, it is reactive. There could be some glitch to resolve, so it will take some extra cost to resolve these issues. So this is about proactive and reactive ways to find out the threat. Whenever you are reading any topic, you have to ask yourself why we are even reading this. What is the ultimate result? The ultimate goal is to prioritize the potential threat against the most important asset. Okay, have that in your mind. Now let's move on to the next topic. The second one is security development lifecycle. Microsoft came up with the security development lifecycle. It follows secure by design, secure by default, and secure by deployment and communication. This helps in reducing the overall risk. By using the security development lifecycle, Microsoft attempts to reduce vulnerabilities. The next topic is identifying threat. We can focus on asset, attacker, and the software. Asset. By looking at your asset, depending on what is stored inside or what you are trying to protect, you can find out whether someone could attack it. Attacker. If your organization is able to find out the potential attacker and identify their motives, then a security mechanism can be built around it. You would have seen when top officials from other countries visit our country, the security is tightened. And there are layers of security, bomb squad, checking, this and that. This is done only because they have an idea about the potential attacker and motives. Right? Let's move on. Software. This I think you should have guessed by now. Based on what software you are using, what operating system you are running, or which framework you have employed, everything will have some inherent issues. It becomes a threat and will be exploited. All softwares comes with some vulnerability. So if an attacker has any knowledge about the OS software version you are using, then the attacker will definitely try to exploit the vulnerability. The end result is to prioritize the potential threat against the most important asset. You may not be able to identify all the threat, that's okay, and may not try to solve all the problems you have in hand. So, one of the steps in threat modeling is to prioritize. Before we see how to prioritize, let's cover STRIDE. STRIDE is a threat categorization scheme, and STRIDE contains spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. Let's see one by one quickly. Spoofing is a falsified identity. Here the attacker tries to get access to your system by spoofing the identity of someone else. A valid user. It can be a spoofed IP address, MAC address, username, SSID, or any other logical ID. Now you can imagine once an attacker gets access to your system, data theft, privilege escalation will be the next thing. Spoofing is an attack on confidentiality, integrity, and availability as well. There is a difference between spoofing and tailgating. Think about that and type in the comment section what is the difference between spoofing and tailgating. Tampering. Tampering is unauthorized modification of data, either for the data at rest, data in motion, or even in use. So tampering is an attack on integrity and availability. Repudiation. After doing an act, if the attacker can successfully deny committing that act, then it is repudiation. For example, an attacker can log into a system to steal data. But if you don't have sufficient proof to prove that the attacker has done the crime, then it is repudiation, because you are not able to prove and he is anyway denying. If a system allows for repudiation, an innocent person also might now become a target and can become a victim. Information disclosure. This is kind of a threat where you give away a lot of information and the pain is even without knowing about it. Sometimes developers give too much of information in the error messages or in-depth technical details about the change, like what is the issue that we have solved, what is the CR number in the JavaScript section of the HTML page, or even storing sensitive information in the hidden form field. A self or peer review can solve this type of issue. Denial of service. When a system is under DOS attack, two things can happen. Either there is a complete availability issue, where a legitimate user is denied from using a service, like you cannot even log into the system, their API not responding, etc. The second type is there is a performance issue. Pages are loading very slow. So even if you are able to log in, since it is very slow, the entire environment becomes unusable. For recovery, it may either demand a simple restart or even an extreme solution like rebuilding from backup. Elevation of privilege. This is a type of attack where a normal limited privilege user is able to log in and then able to get a higher privilege or access. This could be due to the coding flaw or how authorization is handled. This is about STRIDE. Now let's see what PASTA is. PASTA, which has a full form of Process for Attack Simulation and Threat Analysis, is a 7-step approach. You should see PASTA as a risk-centric approach. In short, you know the value of the asset, you know what an attacker could do, and now develop a countermeasure for that. Okay, remember this. The next step is determining and diagramming potential attack. You need to build the architecture diagram of your application or even system as a whole. Let me draw this diagram for you. And aim of the diagram is to show what is the data flow, what systems are involved, how the data moves from A to B, and how we do the transactions end to end. With this diagram, now you can brainstorm with your team to find out if there is a vulnerability. Can someone, either insider or outsider, can really compromise the system? Details to be included in this diagram are the firewall, your security mechanism, where you receive user input, how and when it gets validated, how it is queried in the database, how the value is returned to the user. It's like end to end you have to cover. You have to pay attention about when the data is moving from one zone to another, how it is protected, is it still encrypted, etc. This diagram will ensure everyone has the same understanding about the system and potential attack to be identified. Can you do me a favor? After you have watched the video, draw the diagram of the application in which you are involved. Think about where could be the potential attack. And you don't have to give that in the comment section because it could be an NDA, and it is for your understanding to really realize how this diagram can help you to find out the threats. So next step is to perform the reduction analysis. In this step, we identify the following. Trust boundary. This is the place where the level of trust changes, maybe from outside world to your inside organization network. Data flow path, how the data moves from one place to another. Input points, where you receive input. Privilege operations, this is the higher privilege activity. This could be system configuration change or a maker checker level of activities, etc. Details about security stance and approach. This is the detail of your security policy and overall approach. So once you have identified, the next step is dread. Dread has these 5 attributes. So for each of your threat, you have to mark what is the value. Damage potential, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. Damage potential. What is a damage? That is, if someone really attacks, how bad it could be, what can really go wrong. So this is like your exposure factor. Reproducibility, how easy it is to reproduce the attack. Exploitability, how hard it is to execute the attack. Affected users, how many users are impacted. Discoverability, how difficult it is for an attacker to discover the weakness. You will have to give numbers from 1 to 10, where 1 is the least and 10 is the most. And in the car example that you just now saw, discoverability is very high, so you will be giving 10, right? And affected users may be 1%. Based on the ranking, now we know what should be the next step. Yes, go back to your design board, do the brainstorming, and you know what threat you have to address. So that is why we told the ultimate goal is to prioritize the potential threat against the most important assets. By doing the threat modeling, we have listed out all the threats against your most important asset. You are able to prioritize the potential threat, and it is with you now. You have to decide which potential threats you are going to solve. I sincerely hope this video will be very useful in your exam preparation, and I am happy and proud to be part of your CISSP journey. Thanks for watching, and come again for more videos. Thank you.